Hi, I'm Megan from Maybe Read Again, and today I'm going to be doing the BookTube-A-Thon Day 5 video challenge, which is to create a class and the book list for it. So my class is going to be on the topic of unreliable narration, and we have quite a few different mediums of literature that are going to be read by us. So first we're going to be talking about short stories. The first short story is called Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne, who also wrote The Scarlet Letter. And in Young Goodman Brown, a Puritan man leaves his wife named Faith at home one night to go for a trip into the forest, and he comes upon a devil-like figure and goes to a gathering full of kind of worshippers of that figure, and the questions that come up are what he really experienced and whether it was a dream or not, and did he really leave his faith behind. So the second short story that we're going to be reading is called The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and most of us have probably read this before. I first read it in 6th grade, and it's about this man who cannot stand the other man that he lives with, who has a filmy eye that drives him crazy, and he is plagued after killing the man, spoiler alert, by what he thinks is the sound of the man's heart buried under the floorboards. And so it's all about what is he really experiencing? Is the heart really, haunting him? We don't know. It's unreliable. The third short story that we're going to be reading is also by Edgar Allan Poe, and it's called The Cask of Amontillado. And the narrator in this has been slighted by a man named Fortunato and constructs a plot to get back at him, and the audience isn't told what Fortunato did to deserve his scheme, what he allegedly did, and the dialogue of the main character who's committing this crime. His dialogue makes him seem like he keeps letting Fortunato have the opportunity to turn back, and it just makes us not anticipate what the ending really is, because he's not showing his true colors in what he's saying. The last short story that we'll be reading is called The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. In this story, a woman is diagnosed by her doctor husband with hysteria and depression, and she's kind of confined to a room in their vacation home, and she's not allowed to work or do her writing. And she starts seeing this woman in the wallpaper and on the grounds, and what our question is, what is she really seeing? We don't know. Who is this woman? So the next things that we're going to be reading are a few poems, and the first one is called Porphyria's Lover by Robert Browning, and in it the speaker wants to capture this moment of love that he's experiencing with his lover, and the way he goes about doing it, he completely is interpreting it as what's right, and his understanding of his lover's feelings is definitely unreliable. The second poem that we'll be reading is actually a really long one. It's called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and it's an Arthurian tale. Gawain is one of the nephews of King Arthur, and in this poem, a man called, the Green Knight shows up to one of their feasts and challenges Arthur to cut off his head, and Gawain steps up in his place and does so, and the knight tells him to seek the knight out in a year's time so that the knight can return the favor. And so a year later, Gawain is on a journey to find the knight's house, and he stays a few days at this lord's manor, and the question is, who really knows this Green Knight? What's up with the people at the lord's estate? What's Gawain really getting into? And why did the Green Knight challenge Arthur in the first place? And so now we're going to be getting into our novels. The first novel that we're going to be reading is called The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, and this is a book that I previously read in a sci-fi and fantasy literature course, and it's set immediately after Arthurian times, so it's kind of related to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and Gawain actually shows up, so it's all related. And this older couple lives in a village where this mist is affecting their memories, and we don't really know like what's really happened, what's the truth, what is this mist doing. And apparently their son had previously moved away, and so they want to go on a journey to visit him because, you know, that's so weird. So many years have passed and we haven't visited him, and left the village and left this, you know, presence of the mist. This book also talks about the cultural differences between Britons and Saxons, and so that's a cool dynamic. Yeah, so they're just trying to get to the bottom of this mist and memory problem. So the next book that we're going to be reading is also by Kazuo Ishiguro, and this is a book that I read this week for BookTube-A-Thon, and it's called A Pale View of Hills. In this novel, the narrator isn't as obviously unreliable, but in the synopsis for this novel, it talks about how this, you know, small family is dealing with one of the daughter's recent suicides. And in the novel, it's never really revealed what the situation was with the daughter's mental health and what caused her to commit suicide, and what, you know, really the situation was around that. It instead focuses on the mother's previous experiences in post-World War II Nagasaki, Japan, as she was pregnant with that daughter. And one of the unreliable aspects is that there's this young girl that she's been interacting with, the young girl and her mother as some of her neighbors, and the young girl's experiences possibly related to PTSD from the horrors that she had seen, that we're not sure what exactly the young girl is experiencing. This was actually Kazuo Ishiguro's first novel, and in an interview he talked about how the kind of unexplored ends, like the suicide and everything, one had to deal with his writing inexperience, being it his first novel, but also his understanding of what he made explicit or subtle didn't seem to translate to the masses of readers. So we can also explore what's on the page versus the writer's intention, and hopefully find those subtleties that he put into the novel. The next novel that we're going to be reading is Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane, and I have previously watched the film version of this with Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo. And so in this novel, a U.S. Marshal goes to this insane asylum on an island to find out about the disappearance of one of the patients, and through his investigation he comes upon this woman who claims to be the patient, and that the workers are doing experiments and lobotomies on patients. And he also comes across this mysterious male patient, and there's some kind of relationship between him and the patient. And so with the unreliable narration, we're trying to figure out what that relation is, what's really going on this island. Will we ever, you know, figure it out? What's reality? And so the next book that we're going to be reading is called Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. I'm excited to watch the film version of this because I really like Mark Strong, and then there's Nicole Kidman and Colin Firth, and it just seems like a good time, if very mysterious. So in this novel, a woman wakes up every day with no knowledge of her life because of a car accident that happened 10 years ago, and her neurologist has asked her to record any memories that she remembers on a video camera. And so what we're trying to figure out, and what she's trying to figure out, is what is the truth around her memory loss, and is her husband and is her doctor, are they telling the truth, and what are their intentions? This last novel, I love this movie, and I love the actors, I love pretty much everything about it, and that is Atonement by Ian McEwan. And the movie version has James McAvoy and Keira Knightley in it, so I would highly recommend watching this. And so in this novel, An aspiring young writer has a crush on her older sister's love interest, and she intercepts a dirty letter that he sends to her sister, and she brands him a sex addict. And so later, when she witnesses one of her cousins being raped, she tells the police that it was this man. And so because of her counterfeit confessional memory, she has to atone for how she's separated them, because he's given the option to either go to jail or go to war, and he goes to war. And the question is, how has she atoned for this, and how is that revealed? Are we reading what has really happened, what has really come to pass? How does she use words to convey those? So that's it for this class of Unreliable Narration. In the comments, tell me if you would be down to take this class. I am not the biggest fan of Unreliable Narration, to be honest. I like knowing things, but I do have interest in all of these specific works. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you would like to follow more of my videos.